being 7 o'clock. Do we have a motion to open our meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Eric said aye, all right.
Roll
We have to
call.
do
We have
roll
to
call. So, Eric,
Eric Chu, aye.
Buffer, aye.
Mike Boucher, aye.
Bob St. Jean, aye.
Eric McLean, aye.
Okay, we are officially open for business. Good evening, everybody. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. I want to start off by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. On tonight's agenda, we're hoping to wrap up our voting on the articles. Before we take that up, I'm just gonna ask Mr. Kelly for any updates before we get into the articles.
The updates are we have a balanced budget. We are waiting on the CPC final numbers. They had a meeting last night. I haven't, and Todd and I haven't gone through those numbers yet to appropriately assign them, but I assume almost all of them that are not under a category right now would be undesignated balance. And we can go through the final issue on that once it goes through the Board of Selectmen and they approve the projects. And they'll be doing that in one of the next meetings. They take up the warrant both in the 10th and at the latest on the 24th. But
Okay.
we didn't think that we could provide the board with the CPC figures until we get the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen.
Well, we don't have the numbers yet anyway, so without that, we can't make a recommendation
But
Right now.
you're supposed to recommend after they are on that.
on that yet. Do you know, like, are there gonna be any special articles within that? I remember you said that, is Buzzards Bay gonna be presenting an article?
It would be, if it's recommended, it would be part of the CPC article
Okay.
as an undesignated balance,
Okay,
or from the undesignated balances, which is over $500,000 right now.
okay.
Not their ask,
Yep,
your wallet.
yeah, it's essentially a 1.5% surcharge on the taxes there. Okay, all right, so you folks ready to take up the articles? Want to start voting? We'll start with Article 1.
Article 1 is just the annual article to accept the town reports.
Right.
Article 2 is an article that I've reserved if there's deficits in the departmental budgets. As of right now, all of the deficits for fiscal year '23 can be handled after May with the positive vote of the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom by transferring it among various departments and using the reserve fund. So I do not think this article will be moved. But as you know, it's here every year.
Right.
Article 3 is to pay bills from prior fiscal years. Right now, the amount is $1,481.13. There are two other bills that are questionable that do not expend beyond $200. So if you're going to put an amount in here, I would suggest, and you do not want this exact amount, I would suggest 1,750, and then we can, in the motion, diminish the amount because you can't go above it, but you could diminish it on the floor.
So we should have it at 1,750 right now,
That's what I'd ask.
as far as what we're gonna recommend.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's housekeeping articles.
Yeah.
The consent agenda, you have your PEG access cable related fund, which is traditionally in the modern era, $190,000. It is not a matter of public funds as far as it's from cable fees and related cable revenues, so it's not part of taxation.
Yeah, so that's Article 4.
Article 5 is to authorize Board of Selectmen to apply for state or federal grants, expend monies therein too. This is all part of the consent agenda. Article 6 is to expend any sum or sums of money from the Commonwealth for Chapter 90. It's a standard
Yeah.
article.
Pretty standard, yep.
Article 7 is to borrow money in anticipation of revenue. That's a standard article throughout the Commonwealth. Article
That's another standard one, the cemetery board.
R is to allow the cemetery board to perform work in the cemeteries. Article 9 is to allow members of the Recreation Commission to perform work in parks. Article 10 is to see if the town would allow the Board of Library Trustees to sell for the sum of $1 discarded books and periodicals. All of those articles are part of the consent agenda, where it will be voted, they'll all be voted together as one vote.
Mhm.
And they're identical year to year.
Yep.
Article 11 concerns revolving funds, and it's the annual authorization or reauthorization of the maximum expendable amounts authorized by town meeting from all of the revolving funds. Recycling, conservation, park and rec, council on aging, and public libraries. Article 12 is to see if the town will authorize a new revolving fund account for the Soil Conservation Board. This account will allow the board and it's to be funded for $20,000. It will allow the board to use expert consultants and engineers in the performance of their duties, primarily monitoring certain businesses in town. Once this original amount is expended, it's expected that the fees that the town will generate under the changes in the soil bylaw will be put into this account, and the account will not need to be replenished.
Does anyone have any questions on that one before we move on?
That's pretty self-explanatory.
In the budget for the soil board this year, there is the $20,000 seed money.
Yeah.
But we expect that'll be a one-time expense, as the fees should then take care of it in the future.
Mhm.
It's similar to what you do with some of the conservation monies. Fees from that go into their revolving fund.
Right.
Article 13 is the Health Insurance Stabilization Fund. And this is a reserve account, and we're asking to put $100,000 from free cash into that account to continue to build it up so that we're all right this year with the health insurance. We can fund it out of the budget. But at any point in the future, if there's an issue, you have this reserve to fall back on. I would say at some point in the future, you should look to cap it, but it probably shouldn't be capped for less than $500,000 as you build it up.
Is there a limit to how much you can, no?
But $500,000 for a 2 or 3 year huge spike in health insurance seems reasonable, but beyond that, you could probably find better uses of free cash and infrastructure expenditures.
Well, then hopefully, getting into a new agreement
With
is going to
the,
make a difference.
with a purchasing group, yes.
Right. There should be more stability with that.
What this will also help with is, at some point down the road, if you need to, for any reason, mitigate changes or increases in the wraparound policy, health policy for your retirees, you can also use this fund for that purpose. Article 14 is, we're asking for $25,000 to put it in the compensated absence. That's the fund. That's when people leave the union employees leave the employ of the town is responsible for paying a percentage of their sick time. And rather than take it out of the operating budgets, you can take it out of this. If you've seen in the miscellaneous account, instead of $10,000, there's $5,000. Well, the reason to put it there is that you have to access this account through a town meeting. So if you have $5,000 in the operating budget, that would carry you through until you got to a fall town meeting if you needed to access this account.
Mhm.
The next one, we're asking to put $25,000 in the MS4 reserve account. Your MS4 permit reporting, engineering costs, etc., have been fairly stable. At some point, they're going to increase. For every town, their MS4 permit does that. This will build up some money in an account that you don't have to face an increase going from 50,000 to 150,000 in 1 year without spreading it out. This is like almost a restricted fund for that purpose.
And we're in compliance, right?
Yes, and there's an article further on that I'll explain about MS4.
Okay.
Article 16 is to put 150,000 in the general stabilization fund. We are pending action at the selectman's office. You can see that we haven't filled in the figures for exactly how much is in it, because we are looking right now at switching some accounts between institutions and availing ourselves of either CDs or interest rates in other institutions. And so we want to verify when we're taking the money out of the account that it's in now, exactly how much is in there, and we're in the process of doing that.
Yeah, you want to get a good return on whatever the balance is in there.
We're also, I'll address it under the next one.
Okay.
$100,000 to the OPEB trust fund. That should bring it close to $1 million, or over $1 million. You have had half of your OPEB funds invested in the state PRIM account. Over the last couple of years, you've lost money, and they've charged you fees, so it's a double hit.
Mm-hmm.
And you've now below the amount of money that you actually put in the PRIM account originally. It's going to be my recommendation to the selectmen that we take the money out of the PRIM account. It'll take us 90 days to effectuate that. We're looking, my recommendation is going to be to put it in the PARS PCOT, where most of Plymouth County towns have their OPEB trust fund invested. You're looking at PRIM charges you about 70 basis points for fees, whereas PARS PCOT charges you 38 basis points. It also has its success in investment is superior to PRIM. Let me say that.
Oh, well, that's good news.
So, we've not invested the $400,000 that town meeting voted last year in PRIM.
Mhm.
We've kept it in some simple accounts, so we'll get a little bit of interest for that. And now we'll invest it all in the PARS PCOT account. Because when we saw what the return you were getting from PRIM, we didn't want to follow good money with bad.
That's disappointing.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's very disappointing, and you've been in PRIM for 5 years. So, over 4 years, 4+ years. So over 4+ years, your balance is going to be less than you went in with.
Mm.
Is it lost money every year?
Or they feed you double the fees of most of the other approved.
On town floor, will there be an explanation for the residents what OPEB actually is? Because there might be some residents there that are new to town meeting, and they're not going to know what that is or what it stands for.
Yeah,
So for folks watching out there tonight, OPEB stands for Other Post-Employee Benefits.
and it's primarily deals with retiree health insurance cost
Right.
liability, because under a reform that the federal government did concerning accounting practices, you have to report that liability on your books. And you're looking at a liability right now that is approximately 21 to 22 million dollars. I have in my, in the selectmen's report to the town that precedes the budget, the warrant articles, there is an explanation of
Okay.
the OPEB. I can put a brief part of it in this reason, so.
Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think
Just so,
that.
just so the residents aren't confused as to what this is.
Yep. The Article 18 is the capital expense stabilization fund, or as it's known, the infrastructure fund. And we're asking to put $100,000 in that. So you're getting close to $1 million there.
That's probably a good idea. I mean, you have a water main let go, and
Mhm.
that's gonna be a huge expense. And we have to be able to access.
Well, you also, looking at what's happening in the Midwest and everything else, one major storm could damage a building that you would have to do massive
Oh, yeah.
repairs with.
Yeah, luckily, knock on wood, in this part of the country, we don't get, the tornadoes like the Midwest does.
No, we get hurricanes.
Oh, luckily,
We haven't gotten
we don't
those,
get a lot of those either.
Yeah.
We don't want either, so.
And then Article 19 is new. It is a article that will allow the school district to transfer funds available from this year, fiscal year's school department funds that are refunds from Fairhaven or New Bedford for tuition. They would allow them to transfer and put up to the limit the funding in the school special education reserve fund, which then, if you have any major expenditures for out-of-district special education tuitions, you could access that fund.
What's the most? It's 250.
Pardon?
What's the most they can put in there? It's 250.
It's a percentage of annual school's net spending.
Okay.
It's not to exceed 2%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not a bad idea, I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
the sped, that can be a very volatile thing for the school,
There was one tuition in a town southwest of here that was $200,000 just for one tuition.
Yeah, it happens, and you never know when it's gonna happen, that's the thing.
So that's a reserve fund.
Okay.
One question on that one, Mr. Bill.
Yeah,
Is that gonna be an annual appropriation, or is this a one-time because of the
tuition issue. If it's more than this year. They'd have to refile the article next year.
It would fluctuate, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would fluctuate.
And I would hope that we've resolved at least the major part of the tuition issue, but never say never, because I'm confident that Mr. McIntyre will, as he goes through all the books in the school department, if he discovers something else, he'd refile it next year. But there'll be some money that will transfer over eventually to free cash out of that refund.
I'm sure we'll be having a lot of conversations with them between now and next year.
They're discovering things. Capital items, you have the fire truck, fire apparatus, which is a $465,000 capital improvement purchase. And I'm looking to take that out of free cash.
Is that a firm number now, or?
Yeah, well, the only thing we're waiting on is to see whether it makes more sense to trade in.
I thought they
Or-
mentioned they were gonna keep it,
Well,
keep the old one for a spare.
they were talking about trading it in, or it would cost too much, I think, to repair to be a spare, but there is talk that the DPW might be interested in it. I think as of right now, it's still a trade-in. As of last Friday, it was anyway.
Right, it wouldn't affect this.
No, it won't affect the price.
Right.
The next article is the technology article. It's $250,000, a little bit short of it. There are two, the school for $125,000. That is the town's share. It's 60% of the total cost. I have a list that I will be putting in here, but I have our technology person translating it for me. And then there's approximately $60,000 to replace the police server and provide some backup. That is going to be $40,000 for the server. In this article, there's money in a prior article that will pay for it. The total cost is about $80,000. The total for the whole capital technology article is $250,000. Free cash.
Yeah, hopefully that's not gonna, hopefully that amount is not gonna be a recurring
No.
annual cost like that. I mean, I
No.
understand this, like, you have to keep up with updates and upgrades, but, I mean, once we lay out that kind of money, I hope it's good for a while.
The police server should last for,
Minimum 5 years.
yeah, and
Minimum.
that's half.
You wanna laugh, I actually have a server in production that's about 12 years old. So, just keep updating it, and I mean, obviously, you start running into issues with operating systems, the support ending from Microsoft. So they have end-of-life support time, and then they have security patches that they'll continue patching the machines with. And that's usually a 10-year lifespan. So I have machines that are not getting any updates, but they're not connected to the internet or anything. So. But there's stuff in here that I've seen that, yeah, we should be able to get some longevity out of these items.
All right, good.
I would say that if there's any real major technology purchases coming down the pike next year, as far as the town is concerned, it's going to be security issues
Hardening buildings and stuff.
and hardening buildings.
Well, that's definitely important, you know, because of all the hacking going on. It's
Yep.
it's nonstop. I mean, everyone's getting affected now.
The Article 22, I told you we're waiting for. This is the monies that are coming out of the designated categories are listed there. The undesignated revenue category, I'm waiting for the total from CPC. The 91,000 is for the designated categories. The next article is 50,000 from free cash. It is for compliance with MS4, engineering and consultant services. It's in a separate article here because we are going to have both the Board of Selectmen and the stormwater/conservation involved in it. And we want to make sure that things are getting done. Now it's in a critical milestone year in the MS4 permit. We're going into one of their milestone years. Every so many years, 4 or 5 years, you end up having to do not only your reporting requirements, but outreach requirements, that type of thing.
So we won't have this obligation next year then.
I can't say you will or you won't with MS4. It all depends on the EPA, and I've never been able to predict what they're going to do. I will tell you that when I left Millbury, my annual MS4 costs were $400,000. But I had a lot more issues with stormwater and with leakage into various water bodies, including the Blackstone River. You people have been very lucky with this town, with its MS4 costs, compared to a number of other towns.
Has any new information or updates come in with regards to the Mass DEP proposal regarding the nitrogen recovery systems?
2 weeks ago, I had a discussion with state representatives who represent the town, and both of them were very confident that DEP has gotten the message, and there is not a moratorium, but I'd say a reasonable time to reconsider what's going on and come up with a plan.
All right, good. Yeah, I mean, the main concern is the residents, the potential cost to residents in our town. So, I mean,
Well, they're also DEP is listening because of all of the legislative activity. When you can't guarantee that the new systems will actually do what they say they're going to do.
They haven't actually.
So
figured out
what
what's
solves
causing
the problem?
They
Not
haven't
just-
figured
not-
out what's causing the
Yeah,
problem.
not
to start
only,
with.
not only
Mm.
that, but they can't even prove said homeowner is contributing to the problem.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and Acushnet's lucky in that under the goalpost where they are today, you're not one of the critical communities.
right, we want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Do we utilize the same engineering firm for the stormwater permits?
We've used the same one year to year because it builds and it's, why reinvent the wheel when they're reporting
It's a
the same
continuation.
forms? And I'm confident we will be using the same one again this year. Now that the selectmen are involved in it. The Article 24 is to see if town meeting will vote from free cash $1,000 for the Historical Commission and the Board of Selectmen to fund repair and maintenance of historical signs throughout the town. You've got a bunch of...
Parting way sign.
Huh?
Excuse me, the parting way sign, the old one.
For example, that's one
That's
of
falling
them.
apart, yeah.
There's, but there's other historical
Yep.
signs falling apart. We're also going to be looking at some of the veterans' signs and that type of thing, because you can't lose your history.
And I'm sure there's requirements on how to, if you're gonna replace it, if it's a wood sign, they probably want a wood sign, right? I would imagine.
Yeah, and they want to use the
I wonder if,
the same person that's been doing all the other wooden signs.
I was gonna actually ask if that would be something Old Colony could do, with their different departments they have, with the carpentry and.
They've helped out on
architectural
other
design.
things, but
Yeah, the signs
if
they
you're
have
going to
somebody.
restore some of these signs,
Mhm.
it takes an expertise above and beyond
Right, okay.
Old Colony, because
It's like such a specialty.
you would rather restore some of these that were actually done by someone who is an artist in its 100 years ago or 75 years ago, and how they did the sign and not lose the sign. I mean, there's even consideration of taking the parting ways sign and
Putting it inside.
putting a replacement and putting it inside and having it restored, because it is somewhat of an artwork.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would imagine some of that work is labor intensive.
That's a sign that get hit by cars all the time, isn't it?
No,
Wasn't there-
it's the one, it's on the, it's over here on the side. It is the one that's facing Main Street, and then there's another one that's further back.
Wasn't there, well, I don't know
That's
if
the
it was
one.
last year or the year before, there was a bench that was replaced, and there were
That was last year, and that
sticker
was the
shock.
Perry Hill
It
School.
was like the sticker shock of what it actually cost afterwards, right? It was like,
20, it was like $4,000 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was with the pump.
Mhm.
yes. Yeah,
But you want to maintain those characteristics of the original sign.
Correct. Or if we can restore it, great. If we have to preserve it and get a replica, that's what you want.
Right.
And keep the original.
Yep.
And so this is the beginning of that type of program, and where the Board of Selectmen is going to be taking it on with the Historical Commission.
Mhm.
And this is separate from
this,
their request under the CPC for various
my
small
next question, yeah.
historical signs.
okay.
Article 26
Oh, yeah, 25 is the ambulance.
25 is the
We're not
ambulance.
taking that up right now.
We're waiting for town council to give us the language. I've got to stop describing it as a dipsy doodle language.
It's creative
Financing
financing.
All right, so 26
is the article from the school so that they can go into the agreement concerning the solar energy project over the parking lot.
Do they have a cost for that, or any additional
There's
costs?
no cost to the town.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was like a final total for it.
Article 27 is the budget.
which we voted on. We
Yeah.
completed that last week.
Yeah, Article 28 and 29 are the insert that Nick gave, that we copied separately in the insert that you have. Nick provided the figures hot off the press
Oh, yeah, right.
for the Golf Enterprise Fund and the Sewer Enterprise Fund. You've seen those budgets in the budget book, but these will be the articles. Article 30 is the Elders Community Service Program, Senior Work-Off Program. I'm looking for sum of 20,000 to continue funding that. We are under discussion if in future years we fund this through the overlay or not. That's something Todd and I are discussing now. But this has been a very successful program, and I can't hire young people to do maintenance work, but I've got a line of seniors that want to work. And
I think that's great.
yeah, I do too. Otherwise, we wouldn't get the work done. And they are very skillful. I would.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm happier that I've got them than the young people. Even though we worry about lifting some things. But they do fabulous work. And we have a youth employment service program in Article 31. I'm looking to fund it with $30,000. And that is so we've taken and combined some funds from other, from the recreation, put it all together here. We're looking to have the Recreation Commission Chair, the DPW Superintendent, and the Chair of the Golf Management and Operation Committee sit down and parcel out some young people who would want to do work in the summer and get some work done. It's a lot better than paying contractors to do it at prevailing wage. And it helps some of the youth in town. Maybe they'll come back to work.
hopefully they can find enough youth who are willing
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
This is the first year for this, and it's something worthwhile, and hopefully it'll be very successful year to year.
What would be the age limit on that? 16, 17,
Yeah, 16.
16?
18 if they're operating certain
What-
equipment. And we put a limit, depending on how much someone would work, to 4,000 total per person. I don't expect all of them would be working that much, but someone wanted to work months in the summertime and ended up working
$4,000 would almost pay for car insurance for him.
or
Almost.
or
Mm.
books at college maybe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Something, right? Gas for the car.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if maybe they'd learn the game of golf too, or become a golf pro.
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Time to instill work ethic.
Well, it's providing opportunity, you know? I mean, as long as the opportunity's there, hopefully somebody takes advantage of it.
And I think they will.
You know, I would think so.
The next article is to approve the 3-year collective bargaining agreement with the firefighter local. The first year of the contract has been paid as a 0%, but they received a signing bonus paid by the ARPA funds. The second and third year are 2%. It's pretty much this pattern with the other units. And there was some realignment of the salary grid because of parity with the other units in town. But if you remember from the fire budget, because half of your folks are now 18 months or less, it's not like the grid is being abused.
Mhm.
And you've got young, strong, emergency medical folks who can carry people. Which is a good segue into the next article. It's a home rule petition to continue, and I'm going to change the title. I've been told it's not assistant but deputy. Call firefighter chief. You have someone who is very good at teaching and responding to fires, but teaching the younger call firefighters the skills necessary to perform the duties. He is willing to go beyond the mandatory retirement age. He is physically able to perform the duties, and it makes sense not to lose that individual. And there is a provision in the special homeroom petition that restricts to the town ability to make sure of physical and mental capabilities year to year.
Does that extend the mandatory to a certain age, or is it an open? The age now is 65, as I
Right.
understand it.
And until relieved of duties, or he walks away.
Mhm.
But it's, the town annually can do an evaluation.
Evaluation by the fire chief, or
Or a medical panel, or,
Well, it says here annually by a physician designated by the town.
right. if, this is not an unusual situation nowadays. Folks that are capable beyond the 65 to be called firefighters you see this filed more and more by a number of towns in the Commonwealth. So you might as well take advantage of someone who's very skilled and still able to perform.
Yeah, I mean, they're,
I think it's a great idea.
yeah, as long as, you know.
Will he
they-
be going out on actual calls
Mhm.
with, you know?
I've been told he's the first one there.
I know he is, and that's an accurate assessment.
Yeah, you know, as far as physical fitness, I don't think that's an issue.
No.
So,
There is knowledge you learn from training, but there's knowledge you learn from experience. And you can't lose that experiential knowledge.
Wholeheartedly agree with that.
The next article is the Old Colony feasibility study article. This is they're putting up $500,000 of the feasibility study. They're looking for the town to approve a $500,000 indebtedness. The share of this town would be, of the indebtedness would be $125,000. It's, this article is so we can get in the queue for the MSBA. It's MSBA language, it's not from Old Colony or from Town Council. It's straight from the state. We can't vary the language. And there'll be a motion that's attached to it at town meeting. That is the MSBA language also.
so it's gonna be 125 over 4 years.
The next article is from the Board of Assessors. They're looking to modify the real estate exemption criteria for qualifying seniors 70 and older who own and occupy their real property. This criteria hasn't been changed since 1989.
Yeah, so it's about time.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And I think this is a good thing. I think it potentially gives some seniors a break if they qualify.
What do they have to do to qualify?
Apply.
You have to, you have to age, well, it's the age, and then
And owner occupied.
income restriction.
Yeah.
And estate value, that kind of thing. You have to meet these certain criteria. Yeah.
Okay.
The Article 36 is from the town clerk, and it's deleting the current language, inserting language to change the date of the town election to the fourth Tuesday in April, or at such time as shall be determined by a vote of the town. So it would stop the Saturday elections in the spring when everybody's at the ball field. And most people are used to Tuesday for the election day, so it makes sense. And the schools can have a professional development day on that day, and so you can have the teachers at the schools, but the students not there. And Article 37 was going to be a zoning change. We're probably not going to bring that forward. Article 38, which will change to 37, is a stormwater bylaw amendment. You have it attached as it came from the Conservation Commission. They're deleting the whole bylaw and inserting a new bylaw. I take no knowledge as to what the changes are. They were asked to do a red line version. This is what we got. And Article 39 is some minor amendments to the soil bylaw that we're waiting on town council to bring forward. It would allow some waiver of some provisions, and it would, halfway through, the soil bylaw reverts back to Board of Selectmen instead of soil committee, or soil board. It's, when you changed it, it didn't change all the way through. And so that's caused some issues with the open meeting law, and so we have town council working on that.
Do we have Article 39 here?
No.
Okay,
That's
They
the one
moved up
town-
because 37 is gone.
okay,
That's the one that town council's working on.
okay. All
But
right,
it will
so
be called 39.
No, it'll be called 38, I
38.
guess,
Oh.
because 38 is gonna be 37, because we pulled the zoning article. That will probably come forward in the fall. It would be nice if, like a number of other towns, you have the budget in the spring, and then you have the zoning articles in the fall, and you don't commingle the two. Because you're gonna have to have a zoning article in the future to comply with the MBTA housing mandate.
Okay, so we've gone through all the articles.
Yep.
With the exception of Article 22 and 25, which are being held right now because we're waiting for town council on those,
And the zoning,
and the zoning,
or the soil bylaw.
the soil bylaw. So that, what number was that again?
That would
37?
be
38.
38.
So 38, so Article 38 also.
Mhm.
All right, so in essence, we'll need someone to make a motion that we're gonna recommend all of the articles as read, with the exception of Article 22, 25, and
Keep
38
those out.
right now.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the articles as written, like, with the exception of the, I need to abstain from the COA one,
The revolving
the
fund
revolving fund,
and the senior
the
worker.
senior workout program.
And I'll get you those numbers, Kathy.
I'll
Okay,
second
we have a motion and a second.
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna take a roll call vote. So,
Bob Ferrara, aye.
Mike Boucher, aye.
that. Bob St. Jean, aye.
Eric?
Eric McLean, aye.
Okay, all right, so the the articles passed. We have one abstention with regards to the,
The COA revolving fund and the senior work-off program.
and also, we're also holding Article 22, 25, and 38. We will take those up just prior to our town meeting. We'll probably meet, let's say it's 6 o'clock maybe. It might not even take that long, but I think, yeah, I think 6 o'clock is probably good, just to give us enough time, because we don't want to be rushing and,
I will be here for that.
that's right, yeah, so you won't be here.
We meet in the school library.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll plan on meeting in the school library like we normally would do.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Does anybody have any old business to discuss? Any new business? No new business. All right, we do have a set of minutes to approve from March 8, 2023. In attendance was myself, Sue Delgado, Pete Benoit, Bob Ferrera, Eric McGlynn, and Mr. St. Jean.
I'll make a motion on that one.
Oh, and attending remotely was Eric Chu. We got a motion?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's take a roll call.
Sorry. Eric Chu, aye.
Bob for aye.
Mike Boucher, aye.
Bob St. Jean, aye.
Eric McLean, aye.
Okay, the minutes of March 28th are approved. Next meeting date will not be until the actual town meeting, which is, Mr. Kelly, refresh my memory again.
22nd.
May
The 22nd of May.
So Monday, May 22nd.
We don't anticipate any other issues coming up before then.
I don't think so.
I don't know when you want to take it up, but sometime after the 1st of May, we'll be looking at the transfers between the various departments to take care of the deficits. And that's a vote of the FinCom and of the Board of Selectmen. But you could probably do that at town meeting.
That's what I was thinking, because that's almost like a housekeeping kind of thing, we're just cleaning things up. We've done that in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, so instead of, the
6 o'clock, the school library.
6
Yep.
o'clock at the school library on the 22nd, to cover anything that we weren't able to recommend at this time. We started this process in January, and we've completed it. It's always an arduous task, but I think this year seemed to be more taxing than others, for whatever reason. I don't know if everybody agreed with me on that, but we did it. Eric, you said something there?
Yeah, just a quick question, Mike. I was just wondering, did you ever finish up the letter that the committee submitted?
I have that. I was actually going to mention that to Mr. Kelly. I need a couple more days. I'll have it to him in a few days. I'll email it to your assistant.
All right. Looking forward to it.
Well, I was looking at.
As long as it's not in iambic pentameter.
And what?
It's a poetry.
It's going to be good. It'll be a good one. So we'll have that. So there's nothing else to discuss. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All right,
One comment.
yes.
I'd like to thank Mr. Kelly for his assistance through this whole process here.
Yes, that was definitely a big help.
Your expertise and your assistance and your information has been very valuable.
Well, hopefully,
He's provided a lot of
in a
content.
year, next year we'll have a accountant who can work with the FinCom
Well,
as IEs out of the system.
right now, you know, Todd and Nick doing a
Great
great job,
job.
great
Yeah.
job together. So kudos to Todd and Nick from our finance department for getting us through, getting us any information we always ask for, and you know, it's sometimes it's probably a thankless job,
Very helpful.
you know. All right, so I think we needed
Well, I
everybody in
want to
favor?
congratulate the FinCom on the fact that there are all these communities around here that are proposing overrides.
Yeah, I
and
saw
you
that.
were able to work through and balance the budget without
Fairhaven.
any overrides.
Yeah.
You protected the taxpayers.
Well, hey, look, we don't care what other towns are doing. We're not gonna follow suit. I mean, we've always had a conservative mentality here, and we're gonna have to continue on that path going forward, even more so. Because it's gonna get tougher to sustain what we're doing right now. You know, and budgets will get scrutinized, and that's just the way it is. That's our job. And we need as much detail so we can make accurate recommendations. You know what? The recommendations we make are only as good as the information available to us. So if we don't get accurate information when we need it, then you know we can't. It's hard for us to make a really good judgment. So I think we've done a good job this year with what we've had to work with, and you know, it looks like we're gonna have a balanced budget, which is great. It was a collaborative effort on everybody's part, and I think it worked well. So thank you.
Agreed.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn our meeting.
We need to do a roll call on that too.
Yeah,
or-
let's roll call.
Aye.
Eric Chu, aye.
Buffer, aye.
Mike Boucher, aye.
St. Jean, aye.
Eric McLean, aye.
All right, Eric, thank you. Thanks, Eric, for zooming in. Appreciate it.
Good night.